Lots of people have come and told me about the last manatee that was here that was about 8 years ago, and I've looked back over the articles that were written from then as well, but it sounds like that was an adult manatee. It was a bit different to this situation. The guys that I asked to check out his body condition, everybody said that he was really skinny. From the surface he didn't look so bad actually, because he was wide, but then when you get sideways on, he was really thin, like visibly emaciated. It was really bad, and I saw some of their pictures, and that's when I started to get really concerned. And we didn't know at that stage if it was just going to stay for a day, or if and we could come back the next day and it'd be gone completely, or if it was something we were going to have to deal with. These are the most gentle creatures you can find. They don't have teeth, they just have like two grinding plates that rub together. I'm sure anyone that saw it and got close to it in the last few days will smile when they talk about his little face, because they have all these hairs that they use to feel. That's one of their main senses. They feel stuff, and they rub things on their mouth, and it's amazing to watch, really. They're so sweet and gentle. Day 2 was kind of a non-event for me, really. I was all hyped up to go find the manatee. I went down to the Port Authority dock and he wasn't there. I went down to the cruise ship centre and walked along and talked to all the tour guides and asked them to drive their boats slowly because of what I mentioned before with the propellers, and be extra vigilant when they were running their tours, and just take care, and also to let me know anytime they saw him and where they saw him. But I didn't hear anything, so I thought, oh, manatee's gone, and it was kind of like, phew, okay, that's good. It's good for the manatee. He's had the strength to leave, and he'll go somewhere that he can survive. So yeah, that was my hope for day 2. In the afternoon of day 3, I was calling around again, trying to see if anybody had seen it, just check up on him, really. I was in contact with the cruise ship centre a lot, with the manager at the cruise ship centre, and he called me back in the afternoon, an hour before the cruise ship was due to leave, to say that the manatee was at the back of the cruise ship. So at that point I contacted Mitch at Blue Water Divers, and he said, let's get in the boat. He grabbed some fresh water, and I took some lettuce, and we got some guys together and went down to the cruise ship centre. We figured out at that point that the manatee was drinking the grey water coming out of the side of the cruise ship. He's kind of pinned against the side of the cruise ship just with his mouth on it. And that was when we kind of clicked that it was all about the fresh water. We stayed in the area, and as the cruise ship pulled out, we moved in and looked for him. So we were looking everywhere, and we found him. A couple of us got in the water to again assess how he was doing, how he was moving, and the plan at that point was to move him round to an area where there would be seagrass beds. So they feed on seagrass, and that would possibly be a good source for him at South Creek or North Creek. So the plan was to try and maybe guide him towards the south. None of us have ever had to guide a manatee in any way, and we learned quite quickly that manatees do not like to be guided. They're in their environment, and no matter how good at swimming we are, we're never going to be able to compete with them diving, with their lungs, with everything. Even if he's weak, he's winning. Yeah, we learned quite quickly that was not going to happen, especially with the couple of people we had and just the way things were going. So we decided at that point to just try and get him near the boat and try and give him some fresh water. He detected the water, he turned around and he came straight to the boat and drank 4 gallons. We got him to eat lettuce at that point, and that was all we had for that day. So for us that was a success. We got some nutrition into him, we got some water into him, and we knew what he wanted, and we knew that we could get him to us if we really needed to.
you know, as Katharine said, we could quickly see just through observing that this was a very seriously unhealthy juvenile manatee.
It was, yeah, it became clear quite quickly that it was an emergency, that if it wasn't going anywhere and it was staying in Grand Turk, if we didn't act in some way, it was going to die. And so we had to make that decision: do we leave it, or do we make an attempt to rescue it? And for me, the only option is to try and rescue an animal, especially an endangered species that's in distress. As a marine biologist, I've worked in different countries with a lot of different people, so it was easy to put out some feelers and say, hey guys, anybody that's worked with manatees, anybody that knows somebody that's worked with manatees, we need some help. What would you suggest? What can you recommend? How can you help us? And so many people came back with suggestions, with contacts. Some of the same names came up repeatedly, and an email was sent out to a network throughout the Caribbean, which was the most fruitful for us. So we got put in touch with the US Fish and Wildlife Service, and at the same time the Puerto Rico Manatee Conservation Center, who said almost immediately that they were willing to help us, that they would assist us with the manatee in whatever capacity they could. All we needed to do was submit a formal request for assistance from the US Fish and Wildlife Service. So I got the permission to do that, and everything went from there. It was fast, surprisingly fast. We got the permits to export an endangered species from the Turks and Caicos very quickly. We got the permits to import it to a US territory very quickly, and it all just seemed to flow so smoothly. Once we were in contact with the Puerto Rico Manatee Conservation Center, they have massive amounts of experience with this. They work with manatees all the time. They have a team of vets. This is what they do. They rehabilitate manatees. So they asked a series of questions about the body condition, the health, how long it had been here, what we had done with it, and I sent through pictures. And as soon as I sent through the photos, they sent out their emails to the necessary people saying, this is an emergency, we need to get this animal right now. It's that same situation again. Do I leave it here, or do I accept the help that's being offered and do whatever we can on our side to make that possible? And I'm going to make it possible. So we did. They would have everything prepared to go and ready to leave Puerto Rico, but we had to have the animal contained. So we had to take it out of the water and put it in a safe place. So bearing in mind that where the manatee had chosen to locate itself was the most dangerous location for a manatee on the island, and it was whatever opportunity it could get, it was drinking water that was going to potentially make it very sick. I was happy to do everything I could to take it out of that situation, because after 3 or 4 days we knew it wasn't going to leave that area. That was where it was staying, and so, you know, it was either going to die there or we were going to do something about it. You can have as many plans as you want, but it's up to him. He will just do whatever he wants, really, and you can only go in there with your best guesses. And so we were all brainstorming all the time, not just within our island. We were talking to people in Provo that have experience not necessarily with manatees but with dolphin rehabilitation. So it was definitely a huge team effort, and we were doing everything we could to make sure we were following the best protocols that were in place. Said it all happened so quickly that we had this team that were going to come and take it and save it, and it was going to be beautiful. and we just had to catch it. So then it was like, okay, how are we going to catch it?
We could quickly see that water was what this guy's urgent, desperate priority was. So that was our lollipop. We were using water
Yeah.
to get him where we thought was
carrot.
best to try to get him protected, away from danger, till we could further organize a sled and bodies, and we ended up getting a backhoe.
And we knew that water was the best thing. So we said, right, it might be around the cruise ship centre when the cruise ship leaves. Let's go to the cruise ship centre. And so we went down with as many gallons of water as we could. We had a team assemble on the beach. We all kind of thought a sling or a stretcher would be the best way to go. So Mitch kindly got a team together to build a stretcher out of big nets and 2 metal poles. So
And we kept freshwater lollipopping him.
and it worked.
We
it was
got him into shallow water.
It was one of those things where it was working like a dream. He followed us all the way into the shore. It was beautiful. We got him right into the shallows. We got the team in the water. We got the net around him. We had the poles. We're in the shallows with this manatee. And then you have to think, this team has never worked together before. Most of these people have never been around a marine mammal before, and once you get close to an 8.5-foot manatee, it's quite daunting. And you've got him in a net, and you're expected to lift him up the beach. We don't even know how much he weighs. His bones could be really heavy. I don't know.
Well, he was certainly bigger and heavier when he was in our hands in the net than he was looking through a viewfinder of a camera.
For sure. As you can imagine, we started kind of discussing things like, some people wanted to move him down the beach, some people wanted to get him straight up onto the beach and worry about what to do with him later. So in the meantime, we're kind of throwing ideas back and forth, and the manatee is just kind of like, huh.
He decided he got a little tired of being in the net.
Yeah,
Excuse
I
me.
want to stay in this net.
Excuse me, I'm going to get out of this net now. Thank you.
And you have to understand, the manatee's tail is like, it's this huge, I don't know what you would call it.
It's a big paddle.
Paddle, that's the word. So it's a big paddle, and it just went, whew, and
again,
it was struggling in the net, and we just said, let him go.
Yeah, I was just going to credit the team, because even though we were amateurs not having done this, everyone made the right decision, reaction, and got out of his way and let him go. No one tried to force him or grab him or hold his fins. That would have been the inappropriate action.
Well, the team in Puerto Rico kept saying to me, people first, manatee second.
Yeah.
So if that animal is struggling, and I know that its tail is a deadly weapon and its head is a deadly weapon, and we're in the shallows, then, let him go. I don't want him to be stressed out. I don't want him to be injured, and I definitely don't want any of the team to be injured. So let's let him go. We know that we can get him with fresh water. Let's regroup and try again tomorrow. So that's what we did. The plan for the next day was to just repeat the same thing again. So we would go back when the cruise ship was leaving, we'd find him again, and we'd lure him in. But things don't work that way. It's not quite that simple. So we get everybody down there, and there's a tropical container ship at the Port Authority dock. So that's pumping out its bilge, and that's all the manatee wants. It's not even interested in the cruise centre. It's at the Port Authority dock between the ship and the port. And obviously we're not allowed anywhere near it.
Well, the crane was actually unloading containers.
Yeah, they were
at
unloading
that
the
time.
containers, so we're not allowed anywhere near it until all the operations have been completed.
The cranes are off the dock, and we can understand that makes sense.
It makes complete sense, but of course we were trying to tug at their heartstrings, like, please let us save the manatee. The team are going to be coming down from Puerto Rico. But yeah, it was difficult. By the time they let us go in there, it was already getting dark. But we decided, we've got the whole team assembled. It can't hurt to try. Let's try. And looking back, maybe we should have just stopped from the start, but you know, it's the same thing. We're learning as we go. So we were trying to tempt him out with water again, but competing with the bilge pump was impossible. We were using the hose from the crew. They gave us a net off their boat to try and catch him in a net off the front of the boat, and we were going to take him into shore, like holding him off the front of the boat, but the net just wasn't quite big enough.
They were valid ideas, but
they were all valid ideas. They
just were unsuccessful when we tried to.
And this is what we were saying. You can't necessarily have a rigid plan when you're working with a wild animal. You've got to be flexible and try different things, and we tried and we failed, and there were people on the dock shouting at us that we should do it this way, we should do it that way, but you know, we tried our best and it didn't work. But again, we went home and we learned from those mistakes, and for me that was kind of okay. The next day is the third day. We have to get him on the third day. I am getting that manatee on the third day, whether he likes it or not. The next morning, the plan was to go early down to the cruise ship centre, around 12 o'clock when the ship was leaving at 3. And the people from Puerto Rico had said, take Manatee sweets. So Manatee sweets is sweet fruit. So I went out and spent $50 on papaya and melon and apples and pears and kiwis and mangoes and everything, and cut everything up in a big bowl and loaded up the boat. And we had a call from the Port Authority dock again to say the Salt Key ferry had arrived and the Manatee was at their dock. It's like, okay, well, let's improvise. Let's go down there and assess the situation. Let's see if he still trusts us after all the attempts from the night before. Can we get him over to us? Is he going to drink from the water bottle? Is he going to eat the fruit? And we figured we could spend an hour or two down there just feeding him, giving him water, and really gaining his trust. So that was the initial plan, to just be with the manatee. And since we knew where he was, we could get straight to him. So that was what we did.
We could see that his condition was continuing to get worse, and he was weaker in the water, less movement, unable to swim as well, unable to function as well. And while that's not what we wanted to see, we did realize that that might help us in getting him into a net to get him out of the water into the pool. And again, it wasn't anyone's decision individually. We all put our brains together.
So yeah, at that point, because we were just going down there to see if he was okay. I was just in a pair of shorts and a little vest top thing. I was just going down there. We were going to report back and then see how we were going to organize the team. But when we saw that he was in that condition, it was like, okay, well, let's move. Let's do this. And so we called back to Blue Water Divers and said, mobilize the team. Let's roll. Let's get in action. At that point, I called the people in Puerto Rico and I said to them, he's weaker, he's not following our bait, we can't lure him into shore because he's not following. I don't know what to do. And they were like, okay. And they just said, keep calm, try different options, get a couple of people in the water with him, which I was hesitant to do actually because he hadn't been reacting well to us being in the water. He didn't seem to like it. He got kind of jittery when we were in there with him. He liked being fed off the side, but not when you were in there. And as all of the team started coming down, this plan seemed to formulate really easily and naturally, and we decided to put the sling that we had from the first day, instead of trying to move him anywhere, because he didn't want to move, he wanted to be in that one spot. Let's get the sling in there and somehow get him up onto the dock. So I don't know whose the next idea was.
Well, I decided the backhoe might be better. I mean, we were thinking about getting strong human beings, but of course the backhoe is way better than strong human beings. So we talked to Clyde Holliday, and I give Clyde credit. He was down there within a half hour with his backhoe, and I of course came and got more ropes from my dive shop, and we had, you know, the tarp and the sling, and again, I think a lot of it is because the Manatee was just so exhausted and so dehydrated. Katharine was in the water with him a long time, just one-on-one, just a jug of water and trust, and jug of water and trust.
I was going to say at that point, so someone came up to me and said, off the side of the Port Authority dock, are you on board with this idea? And I was like, yeah, I've seen this is a makeshift version of what we used to do in the dolphin hospital. Let's go for it.
Right.
Of course, I feel like it's going to work. He's hardly moving.
Well, and the team did come together. Crab was there. It
was awesome.
We got the sled under him, and it went pretty smoothly for people who quickly put together a plan.
It was really cool, actually. So we had a team of guys working on the sling, putting it down into the water, and for some reason I had managed to get the Manatee to gravitate to me in the water, and he had his fins on my hips, and I had my hand just under his chest, and we were like nose to nose pretty much. There were points that he was like sucking on my face, and I was just pouring water into his mouth.
And then the backhoe lifted him safely, calmly, got him over the dock, and I backed my truck right up underneath it, which was already prepared. We had a mattress in there, we had tarps, we had a soft landing for him.
The next is a blur.
Crab just gently laid him right down on the back of there.
Someone hauled me over the side of the dock, and I jumped in the truck. She
jumped in the truck. We had wet towels. We had pitchers to keep. He was never dry.
He was just kind of looking around.
Like, and again, with the cooperation of Tammy from White Sands, the pool, it was a 5-minute drive. We didn't have to traverse him 20 minutes anywhere.
She had approached us on the beach the day before and said, my pool is right by the beach. We barely have any chlorine in, which you need a bit of chlorine in these tanks for marine mammals anyway, to kill the bacteria and the algae, that kind of stuff. So just a tiny amount, perfect. It's perfect. We could back the truck right up onto there, it'd go straight in. It was ideal. The whole thing was just like clockwork.
Clyde Holiday followed right in his backhoe. Very experienced operator of that, and he, it's one of those situations where it always looks easier than it is. And he gently picked him up and kept him low to the ground, and we had people supporting him. And he had to do some maneuvering. That pool wasn't built for a backhoe to bring a manatee to it.
And there were trees there, there were
and
wires
power
hanging.
lines, and everybody just gently, slowly, calmly helped.
People jumped in the pool. We got the guys in the pool.
In less than 10 minutes. In less than 10 minutes, we had him onto the back of the truck and in the pool, and everybody breathed a huge sigh of relief.
To have him in a pool and know that the next steps could start happening was like, wow. Right at that point when he was released, all I could think about was, where's my phone? I have to call Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He answered the phone and I was like, we've got the Manatee in a pool. And he was like, right, we'll see you tomorrow. Let's get mobilized. And within 5 minutes, I had an itinerary of their flight plan, what time they were going to leave where. They would be with us at this time, they would leave us at this time. This was what was going to happen. And I was like, yes. And so then it was like, we've just got to get them through till, we've got to get him through till 11 a.m. when they arrive in Grand Turk. In Provo, people were calling, and on social media, they were donating money to try and help us get him back to Puerto Rico, because we had been asked to cover the cost of the fuel back to Puerto Rico.
Today everybody's got a digital camera in their shirt pocket or their iPhone, so of course people were taking some pictures, but that was not why they were there, so they could post it on Facebook right away. They were there to see if they could really offer some assistance to contribute. Do you need me to go get water? Can I go get towels? Do I need to call somebody? It was just from the heart. It was genuine, not what can I social media about this, but hi, you're my new neighbor, we're working on this project together, okay, let's get your truck. Okay, we got your truck. And it was just a community effort that really brought people together in a genuine and sincere effort. It was impressive.
knowing that all those people are behind you and rooting for you is huge. And it really inspires you to do it, and to do it properly. So
The best of our ability.
yeah, that's what we did. It was really clear how exhausted he was. Thinking about it, he'd been out in the sea for all of this time, I don't even know how long, fighting against the current without any nutrition, without any water, and he had no energy. So he got in this pool that's fresh water, which is exactly what he wants. There's no current, and he just fell asleep. He was sleeping at the bottom of the tank for like 10 minutes. He'd come up, take a breath, go back down, fall asleep for 10 minutes, and then every now and then he'd go to the jet, have a drink, come back, fall asleep. It was great to watch because you could see how relaxed he was. He was comfortable, he was happy. I said to Tammy, who was with me from White Sands, I said, look how amazing he's doing. This is amazing. He's doing great. It's all going so perfectly. And then he got up, he went and took a drink from the jet, and then it was like everything turned. Everything turned. And we were in the tank I think I was in the tank within 2 seconds, was holding him up. And from that point, he was held up throughout the night. We called the teams back in. We had at least 4 or 5 people in the tank with him continuously. I talked to the people in Puerto Rico. They suggested to me that he wasn't getting enough oxygen to his body, to his organs, and that was all related to his poor health from being so malnourished, from being so exhausted, and that we needed to get emergency oxygen. So we had a team administering oxygen every time he took a breath so that he was getting more oxygen to his system. We couldn't have done more for that animal. Every person in there, they were singing softly to him so that he was calm. They were talking to him. They were scratching his back to calm him. Every single thing that could have been done was done. We didn't miss anything. We were timing between his breaths because the people in Puerto Rico said he should be breathing every 2.5 minutes. For between 9 o'clock and 5:30 in the morning, we were timing every 2.5 minutes. It was a full-on operation. I was getting that animal to sunrise. And then we got to sunrise. I was holding him in my arms with Dan from Crystal Seas Adventures. We were just having a soft conversation. And he was snoring. He'd been snoring for hours. He was fast asleep because we were holding his head up, so he didn't have to go anywhere to breathe. He was just snoring, and then every couple of minutes he would take a breath, and then he'd start snoring again. It was who knew that manatees snore? But apparently they do. And then all of a sudden I felt his body tense. His head went up, it all went rigid, and I looked at Dan and it was like, I don't know what just happened. And we were trying to like rub him down, talk to him, if you bothered him a little bit, then you could get him to, we knew by that stage how to get him to breathe, and he wasn't responding. Some of the guys were taking a break because they'd been in the tank for hours, so we called them back and we did everything that we could. Everything. And he had clearly been sick for a long time before he got to our waters, and we were fighting against all odds to try and give him the very best opportunity that he would have to survive. And I'm so proud of everybody that we managed to get him to the point that we did, and to fail just at that point. And the irony is that it was when the sun was just coming up, was like, we were all just holding on to him, like, and just saying, you can't die now. They're coming. They're leaving now. And I was on the phone. I was on the phone to Puerto Rico, and he was saying we're just on the way to the airport, and I was like, he's gone. I don't know what to do. And he said, just watch him for 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes and call me back. And nothing happened. We were looking for a pulse the whole time. We're giving him oxygen again and trying everything. And he was just gone. There was nothing we could do. I can't believe that he died in my arms at like 5:45 in the morning, and they were gonna be there in hours. It's heartbreaking that we got so close. And you know, I completely understand the chances of him having a successful rehabilitation are very low. He was so emaciated, he was so sick. But you've got to give it everything you've got, and we did, and we fell in love with him, and we're all heartbroken. We all got attached to that animal. He was almost like a mascot for Grand Turk, for us coming together as a community, for working together really hard. We had people coming in the middle of the night to the pool to come and see him and sit next to the pool and just watch him. Kids were coming down, and I was sitting talking to them, all the questions that they had about him. It was a real positive experience up until the point that it wasn't. So, yeah.
Even if the team from Puerto Rico would have been able to come here and collect him, that was no solution to his condition. Anything still could have happened with him at any point of his continued rehabilitation. So the fact that your team and the community of Grand Turk was able to accomplish so much, I think, is a strong testament of what community willpower can accomplish. And sure, we're all heartbroken about it, but we should still feel good that we put forth our best effort. And that was a community best effort that was well guided, as you said, from experts around the world, that we had almost instant colleagues to help us in our mission. And with their help, we made quite an effort. It was quite an effort.
I take solace in the fact as well that if we hadn't done anything, he would have died by himself in the sea, on his own, probably scared. As it was, he died in his sleep, which, you know, that's not a bad way to go, I guess. And he was surrounded by love. We love and care. We couldn't have cared for him anymore. And we were taking care of him, and he was peaceful. And, you know, whatever people think, I'm proud of that.
Oh,
so.
Absolutely. And even, I mean, that's absolutely true, but I'll even take it one step further. You know, as we mentioned earlier, manatees come through Grand Turk very rarely. But if another one ever happens to come in these areas again, all this experience that we've gone through will be able to be applied. Even though this didn't end as we wished it would have, we can still make it a positive experience that we might be able to apply in the future should the situation occur again. So I think that's also a very positive factor that we have when we reflect on how it turned out.
They follow the instructions of our veterinarian and our staff here to the dot. They did excellently, and we're very supportive of what they did and very proud of their effort, their humanitarian effort to provide this animal with that extra chance of survival.